will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Novak, could you please lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Novak. Okay, we will begin with our presenting school. So I'll hand it over to you, Superintendent Wondry.
Thank you, Madam President. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jeff Stanton, principal at Zemmer campus, to discuss benchmark 3-1A, and I believe he probably has some guests with him that are going to do a bulk of the work.
We do.
Dr. Stanton.
That's how we organize it. Okay, great. Thank you for having us back here this year. We're excited about this one. We're going to be talking to you about formative assessment. Doesn't sound exciting, but if you're an educator, it is. And I think you'll see why when we get through this here. So, usually mess this part up. You guys turn it on. So true. Okay. Yeah, as Mr. Wandry said, board goal 3. I won't read the whole thing, but the first part there, develop, support, and sustain high-quality collaborative processes that improve teacher performance and student achievement. So the key words there are the teacher performance and student achievements. And the key words there in strategy 3, we want to provide professional development, because that's what the bulk of our presentation is about today. Benchmark 3-1A there, these 4 questions you see in there are something that you've seen before. These have driven our PLCs and collaborative work since I've been here, which is 12, 13 years now. So the 4 questions are, what do we want our students to learn or be able to do? And how do we know, and that's the assessment part, if students have mastered it. How do we respond to students who have not yet learned? And then how do we respond to students who have already demonstrated the mastery and are ready for it? So that's the meat of what we're going to be talking about here with formative assessment. So before we get to this, and before I pass it off to Mrs. Ullman, the reason it's exciting, especially at the secondary level, so as most of you know, I was principal at Murphy for a while, and I think assessment, I don't want to say it's easier in the K-4 world, but you're with students for a good 5-6 hours, and you have a lot of opportunities to pull them aside, small groups, work with them independently. In the secondary world, you're with them for about 50 minutes. So it's a little tougher in 50 minutes when you have 30, 35 kids to actually assess your students to know what every one of those kids has learned. Have they mastered the learning targets? So it's important, and it's something I think our staff is really interested in being able to do. So with that, our learning coaches, Mrs. Roberts, Mrs. Ullman, they've actually done a lot more training than the principals have on FAIN. They've been doing it, this is their 3rd year for it, and so I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Ullman as she is going to take you through the next part.
What's the secret to the little?
Well, now it's just
now it
taking
just
care
works. Okay, cool. Hi. So I get to talk to you, just kind of step back and think about what it means to actually learn, right? Because that's everything that is involved in the formative assessment process, which is what we're going to talk about in a bit. And for me, the easiest way to think about how people learn something is maybe to step outside of my school days and to think about a time when, maybe like when my aunt taught me the secret to making chocolate chip cookies, right? Or you probably have a time in your mind. I think about a pottery class that I took at a community ed center and how I learned from nothing to be able to make a pot, right? Riding a bike is something that a lot of us went through. This is Hudson, this is Jeff's son. So we can maybe think about Hudson right now when we think about being an active learner, right? So as he's learning how to ride a bike, if Jeff is teaching him, Jeff is probably having to make a lot of plans. He's having to get the bike, think about training wheels, think about the helmet, where's it going to be, is it a safe spot, does Jeff have enough time to maybe make sure that he can have all his attention on Hudson. He's having to think about when he tells Hudson what they're going to be doing. He has to be specific and be able to explain to him, here's exactly what we're going to do, right? You're going to try to balance and also like keep those handles kind of straight, right? He has to be specific and explain what he's going to do. Jeff is checking to see at every step of the way, is Hudson getting it, right? So obviously, is he falling over, but the smaller things. So he's watching for all these little cues of, is he getting it? And then he's giving him really good feedback along the way. Not just good job, because good job is nice, but good job doesn't tell you exactly what you're doing or what you need next. But he's probably also teaching Hudson how to maybe check himself for that. Like, do you feel that? Do you feel what it feels like when you start to be able to balance yourself? And then also Jeff is making adjustments on the fly. So thinking about that moment when maybe you can let go of the back of the kid's seat and let them ride on their own. When it's time to take the training wheels off, all of that. So for me, it helps to think about learning in situations like that. It's more concrete for me. But really what this is, what I just described, is the formative assessment process. And it's what teachers go through with all their students every day. So you multiply that act by 30 kids in a class, by 60 or 70 different standards they have to teach over the course of the year. And the simple thing of one kid with one bike becomes really complex. So this is something that we're looking at with our professional development teachers for the next few years. It's nothing brand new, right? Thinking about the learning targets we set, thinking about giving kids feedback, that's stuff we've been talking about all along, but really it's making sure that we're setting up a system so that all those things can play together to really support students. So it's really pretty complex when you think about it. So one thing that exists that we're lucky to have in the state of Michigan is an organization called FAME, and it stands for Formative Assessment for Michigan Educators. It's been around since 2008. Hang on, I've got some notes here. It was founded in 2008. It's a collaboration from the Michigan Department of Education and a group called the Michigan Assessment Consortium. And we started trying to solve a problem. And the problem is we have a lot of kids failing high school classes. What can we do? And so they were looking at research and what's the best thing that's going to support the most kids? And realizing that the research supports the formative assessment process. All those pieces and all those pieces playing together nicely really supports more kids being able to achieve more. So FAME was founded. And FAME is it's a professional development model that exists in the state, and it provides resources. It's a coach and teacher model. So anyone can sign up to become a FAME coach, and then they just have to get a group of teachers that want to learn with them, and it's basically like a study group, and they really study really in depth all the aspects of the formative assessment process. There are 260 FAME teams across the state right now. And there's 1,500 different FAME coaches that have worked with this in Michigan over the last 18 years. A really cool thing is that all the Look Here learning coaches are now FAME coaches. So we're able to take all this work with FAME and bring it back to all of our buildings. So as we're planning professional development, we're not coming up with stuff on the fly. We're getting the support from this great organization that is full of all the research. So we want to give you some examples of how it's looking at Look Here. This is happening all over our district, but also specifically at Zemmer. This is what we're here to talk about. So Nancy Roberts is my fellow learning coach at Zemmer, and I'm going to hand it off to her. Just the.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good. So FAME at LCS, Look Here Community Schools. We have a lot of things that have been already happening since before school started, and what's going to be coming soon. So what we already have is our learning coaches have been now part of a 3-year cohort with FAME, and we are studying the components in depth, and we're continuing to do that, except for me and 2 others that just started this year, so we're getting there. Our administrators are joining the coaches in the cohorts and getting additional FAME training at K-12 admin meetings. You can see here, thank you, Mr. Wandry, for these lovely photographs today to help us out. But these are the teachers, our principals getting ready to join the instructional rounds with teachers, and they're learning to go through the components and expect to see certain things in the classrooms, and they're generating the ideas of what they could possibly see that need the components within FAME. And then we have, like I said, our teachers continuing this work. Instructional rounds have already started for teachers. Admin is going to start their instructional rounds next week, and these are going to be going through December and January, because this is going to set up our future PD coming when we determine our goals for professional development. So I'm going to turn this over to Rich now.
Thanks,
Mr. Roberts. There's some things that are coming up this year. You'll see we're really implementing time and effort into FAME training across all levels and different groups across the district. Mrs. Allman said that our district coaches, our FAME coaches, are actually completing their 3-year cohort study this upcoming year. We're implementing roughly an hour or so of FAME training in each of our K-12 district admin meetings this year. As recently as this morning, we're looking at examples and breaking down different ways to elicit evidence of student understanding. And once you elicit that evidence, what do you do with it? Where do you go? How does that again tie into your learning target? And kind of where do you go next steps from there? Our department chairs are taking a leadership role within their own department. They're receiving some additional FAME training beyond just what our regular teaching staff is. And we kind of keep this alive in our monthly school improvement meetings. Last week, we had our staff breaking down the different FAME components and elements that support those individual components. We do have some building-specific training coming up at the February Teacher in-Service Day, so the half-day training based on goals that are developed from our instructional round of feedback. This kind of all ties back into some existing things that we have, and we're kind of leading through things that we already do. But it's going to be important to kind of make that kind of real for our building. What's the feedback we're getting? Here's our goal. Now what are we going to do with it? And then at the individual and the coaching level, FAME and different components of that are being weaved into different coaching cycles for individual teachers and for departments. Mrs. Allman's currently working with a teacher at Zemmer, kind of looking at a summative assessment at the end of the unit, working backwards from there to make sure that learning targets and the smaller formative assessments along the way are supporting, again, that summative assessment, make sure you're getting the evidence that we want to see where the kids are at, and then kind of figuring out, hey, how are we getting the learning target? Are they learning what we want them to learn? Dr. Snap, there you go. Beginning and end. So a little bit more about instructional rounds too. One of the things that Mrs. Roberts alluded to is when we're in our training, we're learning in there. What are we going to see when we're in the classrooms looking at teachers teach? What are the kids going to be doing? What are the teachers going to be doing? What are we going to see on the walls? And why that helps is, it gives us a better idea of getting the teachers' feedback too. So one of the things that's pretty common when you get to secondary, particularly middle school, students are very good at playing school sometimes. And what we see sometimes when I go and I think of math classrooms, because it happens in math, because they're moving quick and they're going through, and the teachers are talking about concepts and modeling, and kids are doing them. Sometimes what happens with students is they kind of nod and are jotting things down. And one thing that we've noticed, and I know we've talked about our test scores, is our math test scores are not what we want them to be. And we notice that the teachers, it looks like the kids are getting some things, but when it comes time to do it on their own, they're not really able to some of the students be able to translate that independent skills. And so we think, one thing I want to say is I think the teachers are excited about this, because it's easy for me to go in and say, I was watching it, I think that, you got 10, 12 kids that are motoring along and getting it. I noticed a lot of kids that maybe they're not. They're kind of playing school. They're there and they seem to get it, and it kind of makes sense with the scaffolding, but when the rubber meets the road, they're not producing the right answers. So it's easy for me to say that and then not give them any tools to do that. So I think we've had a lot of conversations with teachers over the years on that, and I think now the goal is giving them those tools and ways to be able to assess students' learning in some non-traditional ways that they haven't used before. So we're excited about it. At the end of the year, if we were back, I'd tell you hopefully all the good things and the things that teachers have learned. And again, at the end of the day, the goal is to improve student achievement. And I think that's what our eyes are on, and we think it's going to happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any questions, comments from anybody?
I like the fact that it's always learning, stacked on learning. You know what I mean? and passing it along, and it's not just top down, we're gonna teach you, but we went and learned first, and we're gonna show you what we learned, and then passing it down, so it's nice to, I feel like everyone's in the same boat, so that's awesome.
I think one question I have is, could you define the difference, because I think that some of us don't know, and I didn't know this going into teaching when I was just a parent, was what's the difference between summative and formative learning or assessment?
Sure. So, it's a complicated question.
I was gonna say, I know it is, the short version, okay, just.
Yeah, the short version is the summatives are going to tell you what the students learned. So you got a unit test, and that's the summative assessment. You've got your learning targets and goals. The formative assessments are everything that from day one before you get to that summative that you're doing along the way. What I always tell the teachers is really by the time the kids take that unit assessment, you should really know they should be fully prepared to get an A on it. And maybe we need to go back and look at the formative assessments and the tools that we used along the way, because if they didn't, then we missed something along the way.
I think the words themselves make it difficult, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, when I came in, right, formative means, oh, it's gotta be this formal, it doesn't have to be, it could be an assignment,
No,
right?
it can
Like
be
some sort of
discussion.
in-class assessment, or some way, it's just a way.
Sure, it can be as
to
simple
engage
as
them.
talking to a student can be a formative assessment.
Exactly, and so
You can
that's why,
verbalize, and you know, okay, this kid's got it, he's mastered this learning target. You know that student has it, and it's about getting down to individualizing it for students to where, like I said, it's not just, okay, I taught it, they should know it, but that you really know as you're going along through that unit, what skills you need to strengthen and what you need to work on, and that's all part of it. Like, I mean, this is going to train them specific ways to ask questions, to give them that information so that they know before that unit test, have the students master those learning targets, and so the students are going to be better prepared based on the teachers being better prepared.
thank you for that, like I said, I just think sometimes we sit up here and we go, oh, these big words.
Yeah,
right? You know,
sometimes we
like,
assume everybody knows what they do.
Right, exactly, yeah, so anyways, thank you for that, I appreciate it.
I love the concept, and we've been doing instructional rounds for several years now. Have we ever thought about, and maybe we have, I'm trying to think back, but have we ever thought about partnering with other districts and doing instructional rounds that way? To see what maybe fresher eyes can pick up maybe in our district that maybe we could do differently, and same thing, us and someone else's district picking up ways or tools that somebody else is using differently than we are, just to make us even a stronger.
So we're kind of somewhat there. We have folks from the ISD who help manage and direct our instructional rounds, so we hear from those staff about what's happening in their districts. So there's some cross-pollination going on there. I do think there is some limits to that based on availability, scheduling.
Sure.
It's hard enough for us to do it within our buildings, but there is a lot of I guess I'll use that word again, cross-pollination, because we hear a lot of feedback from the ISD staff that facilitates those rounds for us about how it manifests for the districts, positives and negatives from that.
I can say from an ISD perspective on the school board, Lapeer is always seen as the leader, right? I mean, it's the biggest school district in the county, so countywide, I feel like we kind of do take the lead usually. So I think it's exciting that you guys are getting into this, fame that's of course statewide, and so I think that's important too, to know that getting involved so that we can do stuff statewide, that's definitely a good thing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, team.
Next, we have public comment. But I don't see any public comments this evening, so we'll go into our presentation. I'll turn it back over to you again, Superintendent Wondering.
Thank you, Madam President. Assistant Superintendent Mrs. Michelle Bradford will present to the board on our 2025-26 board goals relative to curriculum and instruction. Mrs. Bradford, the floor is yours.
Yay.
And you didn't bring anyone to delegate the work to, so it's all on you. Perhaps Dr. Stan can share with you.
They can speak up anytime. So Karen this year is our formative assessment coach district-wide. And there's some things in here today that I'm really excited that carry over from the FAME work, but we've been meeting weekly, and I see her in all the buildings, and it's so much fun to have her plan all of this stuff with us. I'm not gonna get into the nitty-gritty of the benchmarks, because you have them every month. And the goals have not changed. Yay, it's quality curriculum, quality instruction, with the multi-tiered system support. That's that process that we need to embed in our goals. We have the collaborative processes, and last year we added environment. What I'm going to talk about tonight, and again, I should really do this presentation before the buildings to prepare you for what you're going to start hearing, because FAME is going to be one of them. As you know, in the past, we've heard a lot of things about the essential practices. So you're going to be hearing a lot of things that you will hear from me tonight from the buildings. So as it pertains to quality curriculum, what's new is the integration of AI, which you all know. AI is growing continuously. District policies and visions are being made district-wide or statewide, nationwide. We are consulting with Michigan Virtual, and Carly Dello is our consultant, our specialist. There's a team, just like FAME, there's a team in Michigan Virtual. They've done over 350 presentations in the state of Michigan, 14,000 participant educators. A lot of our administrators and some teachers have been part of this learning. And where we are, we know that AI is going to play a significant role in the next 5 years. And what we found from Michigan Virtual is 51% of employers now expect graduates to be proficient in using AI tools. Yet 48% of students report feeling unprepared, and there's going to be a gap if we don't move forward with providing professional development, strategic professional development, hence the work for the policy that we presented to you. Where we are, Michigan Virtual would say there's 4 stages of implementing AI. We are getting out of the initiate phase. We've been exploring tools. We put together some policies and guidelines for your review and adoption, and we are currently in the build phase. Our first professional development, well, I'm not going to say first because Katie Edwards, you heard her last year, they're ahead of us because of the whole virtual world. But as a district as a whole, we have professional development planned for our teachers in November, and again in, I'll share that in another screen. But we are definitely in the professional development piece, especially after hopefully the policy will be adopted tonight, and we can roll that out to our parents, our community, because our students, and start really diving into the work that we've done in our community work. Obviously, this is going to take some time, but time is of essence with this topic. We have a AI task force that we put together. I think TLT's heard about this. I've talked to TLT about this a couple times. We've identified 3 guiding principles to roll out to our teachers with the use of AI will enhance, not replace teaching and learning, uphold the academic integrity of using AI, and protect data privacy when using AI responsibly. With those guiding principles came some, okay, what are some of our acceptable uses and our unacceptable uses? And I'm not going to go into each one of them, but for example, we're even looking at our full team. What are some useful AI things that we can do as in our administrators to save time with just the same as with lesson planning development. So some acceptable uses, we're exploring some of the tools that will save teachers time, administrators time. Obviously the data analysis, I took our assessment scores that I'm going to be reviewing with TLT and put them into a Gemini, and it gave us, it was so quick. Usually I'm analyzing all the data and try to find out the themes, and it does it for you. Do I take it for what it is? No, but it's a start that I can then go through and make sure it's accurate and true to what we want to report. So, obviously, unacceptable use is violating FERPA, hence the policy work and the guideline revisions. So we took this work, and that's what came out of the policy that you have and the guideline. So now, we're past that initiate phase, we can take it to our staff. This is going to be part of our curriculum. We're involving administrators, our coaches. Carly's coming out to our coaches meeting, and she's actually going to help them use AI tools for their February FAME PD that they're presenting to their staff. So actually integrating some of the AI things into what our teachers, our coaches are doing with their staff. And then again, we've got professional development plan for November and January and March. And Katie really was the lead on it. As it pertains to board goal 2, there's a lot in this slide that really encompasses all of the instructional initiatives that we've got planned now with the grade level transition underway. 2 of the biggest things, obviously you've heard tonight, is FAME, so I won't go into a lot of detail about that because Summer pretty much explained what our buildings are going through. Obviously the AI, K4, we don't have any pilots this year. I'm so excited. So now we're providing our K4 teachers with, we know through the implementation dip that our pilot teachers went through last year, we know exactly what they need from some, on the professional development side to get that instruction going. And with the new law with dyslexia, you've heard about that. We're starting to plan what that's going to look like. Obviously 5-6, it's the Zeus zone, which is another word for multi-tier system support, MTSS, but it's a more fun term. And they have their entire building involved with the Zeus zone, not just the general ed teachers, but the specials or elective teachers are taking part in that. So we need to spend some time with them. And the big one that's probably our most consuming right now is the healthy grading. As you know, we talked about being a standards-based district for a few years, and I'm not going to go into much detail about FAME because you've heard that, but I do want to go into some detail about where we are with the healthy grading because that's going to directly impact the entire district, and we want to roll that out district-wide, so that is a big one. In addition to those things, they're all working simultaneously in things like rounds, data days, department work. We're involving the department chairs in this healthy grading. Obviously, the dyslexia, we're involving K5 teachers and all of K8 special ed and speech teachers in the dyslexia initiative. And with our new STEM, we're not calling elementary tech anymore, it's STEM, and we're introducing more engineering type activities into our STEM class. And at Rowan Warner, which is also carrying over to our PLEW programming at the high school, we finally have this K-12 trajectory of some real STEM work. So we're doing other things with those groups, not on the PD days, but throughout the year. So you've heard about FAME. Are there any other questions about FAME that you want to hear? Because obviously you heard. This one, where we were last year and where we are this year, it's changing. We're listening to our staff. So last year we spent a lot of time, all of our PD, I think it was about 4 days PD we had with FAME. And we had monthly meetings with our consultant, who's a teacher in Armada, who is fully standards-based. We spent a lot of time on what is a student's final grade should be determined solely by. And it's what the student knows or doesn't know related to the standards, not a compliance, not a did you turn that in for a grade, not a behavior, which are, I'll be honest, I think Karen described it best, we have the wild west of inconsistencies as pertaining to grading. Some teachers give zeros for missing work. Some teachers give half, put a missing in there. And you know, if you've had kids go through, either, my son's here tonight for class, even I write, I'm like,
Is he
what is
presenting
this?
tonight as well?
Huh?
Is Bo presenting this evening?
No. But if he could probably contest it.
Bo, please come to the podium.
He missed, just for example, he missed, he was caught for a tennis match and he missed a test, so it was a 0. So I get, you know, the powers drop that, and like, his grade went, what? So it's just, we're all over. Some teachers, which I love, give a 50, don't give below 50%, because why are we going to standards? Because 50 to a 0 is like a grade killer, because you can't, you can't catch up. So some teachers know that, and they don't give below 50. Some teachers give half credit for a retake. Some teachers give full credit. So we have a lot of work to do in the midst of a transition with teachers at new grade levels, teachers in new buildings, teachers teaching with new PLC teams. So we have to be really strategic about our next steps. And then knowing that, okay, if we're not going to involve behavior or compliance in the grade, then what are we going to hold? What's our teeth for behavior? So we've developed a citizenship rubric, which we're going to roll out this year. Actually, RW is already going to use it because they're a little ahead of us, because we had to do some work for the report cards because they're 5-6 building now. They're applying it this year, and we're rolling out to Zemmer in the high school second semester in March and at the end of the year. So, and we're updating our report cards. So we're getting ready for all this work. And for year 2, this year, we had PD in September and on healthy grading, and the survey results were glaring. Basically, I should have put that really big. We need department time, like I said, with the new transition. So what Jeff described, FAME, rolls over to this, because we need teachers to identify their power standards for a given unit, the power standards for a given year. We're going to start small. We're revising what our PD is going to look like in November, based on what we hear from the teachers. We have the elimination of student or teachers being evaluated based on their summative assessments. That's no longer part of our teacher evaluation. So what does that mean? We can break those suckers up, and so they're not 2 hours long, with multiple, you know, we can make better assessments in units. So we heard that loud and clear, because one of the fears that the teachers have, which I can understand, is that if I'm going to continue to use this assessment, that, you know, we use it as an exam, and we're going to count 80% of that on a student's grade and 20% on, you know, the compliance grades. I'm concerned that the student is going to fail the summative and their grade will be tanked. So we know we need to do some kind of power standards, learning targets, and some common formative assessments, and then looking really at those summative assessments. So that's our goal. We're involving department chairs this month to get them on board, because our next PD is Zoom, and we're going to have a lot of breakout sessions to be able to do that work. So it goes right into our other goal, collaboration. We are depending a lot with our building leaders. And in addition to our collaboration time, is also looking at the behavior in a more systematic way with our SAT process, which are student assistance teams. It's now part of our collaboration time. So we're revising, we've all had SAT, but we're creating a district SAT process, and Jeff is part of that work actually. So that's continuation in our collaboration. As it pertains to environment, continuation of the CSTAG, we recognize that we had a high number of CSTAGs last year, and so we're, Colt-wise, is taking a more active role with working with the principals to see, you know, is this truly a CSTAG worthy, or just refining that process, because we took it really seriously last year. And obviously our K-12 K-12 citizenship rubric that we're gonna be rolling out. On a positive note, this pertains, one of the goals, the board goals that pertains to environment is that perception data. And what we found that students, parents, and staff are reporting at least a 10% increase based on our perception data for the school caring about the health and well-being. So that's coming through, and the security and safety of the school. So I do see an increase in perception data and a 10% increase in students, parents, and staff reporting schools helping teach appropriate behavior. So the work that we are doing with CSTAGs and SATs have demonstrated an increase in perception. That is an update in goals 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Will you remind us what CSTAG stands for? Like, I don't know what that means.
Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guideline.
Again, acronyms, right?
I know, right?
I use them too, but.
I know, let's see myself to make sure I work. Well, I'm really excited about the grading. I am really, really excited about that.
We're gonna dig into some retake policies too. Karen and I have been Zooming with other superintendents, or district leaders in the state. There's a lot of districts out there that are standards-based that we're tapping into. She attended a conference and got some really good names. We had a great Zoom meeting with Amy.
Excellent.
She sent us all kinds of stuff. We're like into book studies and, but she shared a document with us that we want to make ours. And so we're really gonna be working a lot with the department chairs to get their input. We've already done some groundwork in this. Now we just need a district-wide process. One of the things that the teachers were bogged down with were, okay, they want more scoring practice, or what does this mean on the back end of Power School? We're still figuring that out as well. And I just learned, I talked to Bill, our ISD superintendent, and he informed me, he come join me, and because we're going standards-based at EdTech. So we've been meeting with our ISD consultants, Matt Maluso, he's fabulous. So we still have a lot of work to do. We can't just jump into this next year, but we will the next year.
I think that's critical for college success. I mean, I think grades it's so different. You get students in these classes that just, well, can I even take an exam? No, you can't. That it's not part of our requirements as far as HLC is even, higher learning conditions. So I'm like, So anyways, yeah, I think that's critical, really, for
And it aligns with FAME in all the work that they're doing. So there's some true alignment in everything.
I just think the consistency will give our parents more faith in that their students are accurately being assessed, right? And we can accurately really show that we're doing it very consistently. And then also it gives these students really a better assessment about themselves as a person for their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're in college or whatever type of career they pursue, I think it only helps guide them better. They have a real, I think a truer picture on what their capabilities are. So I'm super excited about it.
And if it's standardized across, it's nice, because that teacher's grading in the same way that, like, I get to take it to but I can't take it here.
Mhm.
That would change in
Yes.
college, but let's get through high school first, right?
Yes.
Like, everyone kind of knows we're on the same page. So,
Yep.
that's great. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, that brings us to our action items this evening. So we have consent grouping, approval of minutes of September 3rd, 2025, and then second reading and adoption of board policy 7540.09, artificial intelligence.
I'll make a motion to reading the minutes be waived and the consent agenda items be approved as presented.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion and a support. Mr. Van Wagner?
Aye.
Mrs. LeBar?
Aye.
Dr. Watson?
Aye.
Dr. Novak?
Aye.
Ms. Putnam says aye. Motion carries. And then we have, the cash flow borrowing resolution.
Before we make a motion to that, I would like to just invite Mr. Rader to give the board a bit of context as it relates to this action item, because I know there's some confusion with the formalized release of the state budget, and why would we continue to pursue this resolution? So Mark, if you wouldn't mind giving us that context. Please, please.
Our wonderful budget was finally signed yesterday, 3+ months late. I was just reading, if you saw me on my phone, I was reading an update from MSBO, because that's the first summary we've gotten in 4 days. And there's good news and bad news, as Lisa and I were talking before the board meeting. The bad news is, why you have this resolution, if you remember, we did a $6 million cash flow resolution back in the spring with our budget, right? Because we knew there was consternation with the budget. We had to increase it. The reason for this additional one is the safety net. I'm hoping not to have to use it, but we still, as of today, have not got confirmation that we're gonna get our October 20th state aid payment. That's roughly $4 million. That's why the resolution is for not up to, not to exceed $4 million. If we don't get that state aid payment, we will be short for payroll on the 23rd and November 8th. And we don't get the next state aid payment until November 20th. So that puts in context. We're hoping it's 500 districts that be the same problem, but I'd rather have the safety net than we can pull it if we need it, not. As Lisa and I were talking, this in the budget, yes, it looks good, $442 increase, but where the devil's in the detail that we're gonna work through is they've eliminated a lot of retirement funding items. And they lowered the retirement rate that the employer pays. And so what it is a shift that we're trying to figure out. We lose $1.5 million here. Hopefully we'll pick it up on the expenditure side. We'll net to the positive, but we're probably a week or two away from knowing the true impact. It's good news because, as you hear me say, $270, $280 per student. We need minimum as declining enrollment. We're at 442, so that's good news. So as I said to Lisa before the meeting started, I think overall it's going to be good. There's not total good in there, but it'll be better than what we thought we were going to get, but we got to work through the details. So this cash flow is anticipation of all this. Hopefully it's for not tonight. It's a safety net for us. So just so you understand why we're coming back asking for another $4 million authorization that I hope not to have to do. Questions?
I appreciate that, just from sitting in the business office, like I know what that costs, even to borrow for a few days, right?
Right.
$4 million is a lot of dollars. So again, just looking out for the overall financial well-being of the district, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Okay, so can I get a motion?
I make a motion that the cash flow resolution be approved as presented.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion and a support. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Van Ruyden?
Aye.
Mrs. LeBar?
Aye.
Dr. Watson?
Aye.
Dr. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Motion carried. Okay, that concludes our action items. I'll open it up for any board member communications this evening. Anyone have any topics?
So I just appreciate Summer coming, I appreciate the information, I appreciate your definition, because I think that was very helpful, so. Yeah. Thanks for what you're doing.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Superintendent Wander, for your comments this evening.
Madam President, just briefly, as Mark put into context, how the state process is continuing to create consternation at local district level across the state. I sent an email to the entire staff, I think a little over 2 weeks ago now, articulating the beginning of our local budget process and what are some of the variables that are going to impact LCS moving forward. And there will certainly be some challenging conversations with the district over the next, let's say, year and a half, 2 years, as it relates to what we discussed in the spring about the loss of the ESSER funding and the belt tightening that'll be required as a result of not having those funds. And so, the board, I think we put ourselves on formal notice with the adoption of last year's budget, recognizing that we were in a deficit position, and we did indicate that the budget process would begin in earnest once we saw the finalized numbers from the state. We are hopefully hours or days away from having that information, and when that begins, it will kick off a process for us at the committee level in discussing some of the potential reductions that we will be considering for this coming budget cycle and beyond. For the employees that happen to be watching and participating in this meeting, and we are making these discussions known as the COLT team visits every department, every building, as is our normal process in the fall. We're having these discussions with our staffs 2, 3, 4 times a week until we get to all the buildings. That process will begin in earnest in late October, early November, which the budget process, as you know, is at the beginning of the January, February mark. We feel it's necessary to begin the communication feedback loop much sooner this time around. So just want to publicly remind all of our viewers and those present at this meeting that what we said in the spring still remains true today, and we look forward to beginning those conversations. I yield back the balance of my time to you, Madam President.
Thank you, Samantha Wonder. With that, can I get a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Support?
Mr. Van Wagner?
Aye.
Mrs. LeVar?
Aye.
Dr. Watson?
Aye.
Dr. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Connor says aye. Meeting adjourned.